Our cat loves us so much. She's waiting for us on a chair. Because she loves us. She cannot be apart from us. Bye, Cuppy.
Back to the outside world.
It's the Comedy Cupcake. It's the Comedy Cupcake. It's the Comedy Cupcake Show.
Yes, it's the Comedy Cupcake Show with your hosts, Eric Abbenante and Lila Hart. Today is June 15th, 2020. I will be 29 in a month.
Oh, wow. Growing up, we will actually, for a good month and a half, we will be 29 together.
Oh, it's so exciting. We're going to be 29 together, honey.
And then I will be entering my 30s.
Yeah, that's
I'm going to get old. I'm getting old.
No, it's not old, okay? First of all, I think that aging is a beautiful thing. I actually watched a video of this 107-year-old woman, and she really inspired me on, like, the fact that I want to live to be 107 years old. I want to live and be a cute little old lady. One of the things she said to, always be young is to never hold a grudge.
Well, I also think the other key to being young is you look good at all the ages. You know, that really helps. Like, you look good at 19, you look good at 29, you'll look good at 109. I will age slightly less gracefully, but, you know, I'm going to deal with it in my own very good way.
Just don't hold a grudge and you'll live a healthy life.
Yes, we will. We will do that very well.
So, it has been a minute since you guys have seen us, but we are so happy to be back doing our show. Let's talk about what we've done this last month. Eric hit his 30-day goal of complete sobriety. In fact, he's still going.
Yep, I thought it was so fun. I just wanted to keep going. And actually, part of it was we were working on something very special for Lila, and I'm gonna smoke when we get word on that very special thing, because I feel like it'll be a nice reward. You know?
It'll be like smoking for celebration, and I can get by with that. But anyways, Eric hit his 30 days. I think it was June. Oh, it was June 10th. It was June 10th that he hit his 30 days, and June 10th also happens to be my 3-year anniversary of the last time that I've had a drink or an Adderall.
Slightly more impressive.
So it's crazy that I just hit my 3 years of no alcohol. And like Eric, I quit smoking too, and I'm at like 103 days or something. Weed is the one thing I like always, even in my sobriety, I keep going, I'll go through like phases. I'll do like 6 months without weed and I'll go back to it. But now I'm at like 105 days. I quit March 6, 2019 last year. And then I had my quote unquote relapse. And then I quit March 6, 2020 of this year. So it's kind of funny how a year later to the date is when I quit my marijuana smoking habit again.
March 6th, very special day.
Yeah, that's Devin's birthday, my friend Devin.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, 30 days, and I'm still going strong, and so I just figured we would talk a little bit more about the long-term effects of, continuing sobriety.
What would you say was, what did you learn in the last 30 days about yourself being sober? I'm not going to lie, honey, I don't know if I really thought you were going to be able to do it, so I'm really, really impressed with you.
Well, first of all, I just learned that you didn't believe in me. I knew I was gonna do it. Okay. No, actually, there was a couple moments, especially this was one of the most stressful time periods in America's history. I mean, there were a lot of people, worried, and it was, there were loud noises, and we were up all night, and so there was a couple times where I'm like, am I gonna break? Is this gonna be the moment where I cut before my 30 days? But I held out strong. I would say the main thing psychologically was I learned that emotionally, if I'm like going from 1 to 10 or 10 down back to 1, I need to gradually do so.
10 as in like your emotions.
Yes, like how angry I was, or how upset in any different way. And so I learned that my coping mechanism was, if I was at a 10, I would go and smoke, and then the smoking, not my zen-like behavior or my attitude, that would get me down to a 1. And now I have learned to cope in a different way, through actually having to deal with my emotions. It's been tough. I can't just ignore the cat in the room. I have to actually address what is going on. Do not touch my milk.
Oh, Cupcake. It's the Comedy Cupcake Show. And of course, I love Cupcake that she just jumped on here right now. But honey, I'm so impressed with you because I feel like you being sober brought us closer because you totally understand what I go through emotionally. Speaking of emotions, I'm I decided that I'm going to quit drinking coffee. I was about to say quit drinking cocaine.
Yeah, you would definitely need to do that.
I'm going to quit drinking coffee. So I weaned myself off this week where I was just having a cup in the morning and then drinking water all day. But I love coffee so much. I could drink coffee all day. So I put away the Keurig. I put it in the cupboard. I put away all the little Keurig pods. And, today I only had one half cup. And then tomorrow will be officially my first full day because my goal is to not drink coffee into my 29th year of life. I have a very addictive personality. So I know it sounds so extreme. Can't drink, can't smoke, can't drink coffee, but I can have tea. This is herbal tea.
Well, what do you think are the effects of drinking coffee specifically on you?
You know what? For me, in the morning, why I love coffee so much, it's like a warm hug. It's like I know I'm going to come downstairs and I'm going to feel really good because I have my coffee. But I also know that I'm using that for a false sense of achievement of some sorts, right? I know that's
I woke up coffee,
yeah. And then the more I have throughout the day, it's really hard for me to regulate my emotions, and then I end up screaming and yelling, and clearly the only person that I'm around is Eric, so he gets yelled at, and it's that's not fair. We're in a pandemic and I should be a lot more calm, and I should definitely use this time to figure out my health stuff because coffee makes me rage.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing for me during this 30 days plus of, being off weed was I get to reevaluate all my habits, all my coping mechanisms, all my behavior that I do, I got to evaluate. And it really helped that I got to be able to put a pause on my life and understand what I do. Some of the things I was doing, it was just a habit I was falling into. Just like, I relate to what you said about the coffee. It was just something you did, and you never really questioned why you did it.
Yeah. And it's also when you're, I'm an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic, I guess. But
I would say you have an addictive personality in general.
I do. Because, think about this. This is our beta fish, but I've got 14 fish. Who has 14 beta fish?
In 14 separate tanks.
Yeah. I rescue them. I'm like a beta fish house rescue. I love my betas so much.
And
I love you so much for allowing me to have them here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, it's being able to evaluate all these different, addictions in your life. It really does help. When I was smoking weed, I had a smoothie addiction. Every single day, I would make myself a great Greek yogurt smoothie. It was healthy, but that's
not a bad addiction though.
But it was just it was something I would do to counteract the cotton mouth that occurs from when you smoke weed. And then the issue with that is, although I would be having the healthy smoothie, it would fill up my stomach, and then I would have one less good solid meal throughout the day that was replaced by the smoothie. And I felt like my stomach wakes up quicker now that I don't rely on the marijuana to wake my stomach and my body up. And I think that's been one of the biggest effects of me quitting is reevaluating my eating habits.
Oh yeah, for sure. Even when I first when I was the deepest and darkest into all my addictions, my meal would consist of one Rockstar and a top ramen and like a pack of cigarettes. That was my meal. That was my
The breakfast of champions, folks.
that was my substances. But you know what I love about getting older and getting like I think that every year, you know, you can learn and get wiser and make better decisions is like I'm not a perfect person. You know, it took a lot to get to this point of just even realizing that, oh, I have a problem. I'm over, you know, indulging in a lot of things. So for now, my biggest issue being coffee. Oh my God, that's so great. Like it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was a time where I couldn't not take Adderall. So.
Well, I think a big step in that is so you've eliminated the alcohol, you've eliminated the Adderall, you eliminated the weed, the tobacco, and all these other things. Then once you've eliminated all these separate variables, you can look and be like, oh, coffee's not that good for me. See, in your past, coffee was like the best substance you were doing. Let's be honest. I mean, my God, that was like if you just went through the list of like how you woke up in the day, coffee was the least of your problems.
Well, and I really do believe in I believe in myself that I'll be able to quit the coffee, even though this will be like third time trying to do that. I am really proud to say that this entire year of 2020, I have not had a Red Bull. And that was one of my biggest addictions as well.
I can vouch for that. It was worse than the coffee because it just has a stronger hit of a caffeine. You know, coffee has more of like a soothing, you know, caffeine hit. The Red Bull was just a jolt, and you could see it. And to me, a lot of these substances, they don't necessarily have a lot of benefits, but you do have a lot of negatives once you start to withdraw from them. And that's really where the addiction comes from.
Well, I guess the benefit of it was like that every time I drank or used or whatever, it's like I always knew that instant feeling of like I said, it's like a hug. You know, where coffee to me is like a hug, and it's like that feeling you get when you work really hard on something. But I didn't have to work really hard; I just had to wake up and drink it. So, the reason I want to be completely sober and have more control over my life is because I want to master myself, you know, and be more in tune with my body and just be more present and in the moment, and especially, you know, when the world hopefully does open back up. It's just there's nothing better than being on stage completely sober. You know, that's when you can really connect with the audience and connect with people. And yeah, I just want to live my life like that. I want to live my life in full connection and present in the moment.
Yeah, and to add on what you're saying, connect with yourself and be self-aware of your own habits and what you do.
Self-mastery.
If you're clouded in your judgment in general, you're going to be clouded in your self-awareness and your reflection of yourself. So I think it's a great point. And then, like you said, this time period in particular is not only very stressful, but a lot of couples specifically. I mean, apparently there's like a peak in domestic violence, almost like 50 million reported cases of it during this time, which is just crazy.
Yeah, that's why I gotta stop that coffee.
So many divorces, and so for us, I really feel like, you know, me quitting, her quitting, you know, we were able just to focus on each other, and our bond just grew even stronger.
Yeah.
And I really am proud of that, in that, you know, we know that we can get through a time where we're spending 24/7 together. And a lot of couples rely on, you know, the old phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder. You know, you have couples that, you know, someone, you know, one side of the couple equation is, you know, out for a good period of time, and they don't really see each other that often. So the times they do see each other, it's really nice. But when you are stuck together for an extended period of time, just like the transition of living together is hard for couples, this transition of, you know, really living together 24/7, this has been hard for a lot of couples. And so I'm really proud that we've not only gotten through it very easily, but to me, I feel closer to you than ever. I understand you emotionally a lot better than I did before the pandemic. And so that's one of my my big thanks for this. And like I said, this is just a stressful time in general for people throughout the country, especially. And so I just feel that it's been good for me to be, if I know deep down, if I can get through this time period and, quit tobacco and quit weed, I can get through anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, honey. I really am.
I'm so proud of you, baby.
Yeah, day 1 starts tomorrow with my no coffee. Wish me luck, people.
We're gonna need it.
Yeah, as you said, it's been a very stressful time here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a very stressful time, and just even in, I am really glad that we have each other and we're home together, but just, you can't escape the stress that's happening in the outside world.
Oh yeah, no, it's out there, and for instance, we had an active shooter situation. Our neighborhood was trending on Twitter. The SWAT team was sent in, and it was less than 0.1 miles away. I mean, I don't know if you can hear it in the audio, but we just had a helicopter fly over as we're talking, and it used to be. Even though we're near Burbank, Bob Hope Airport, we would get, a couple planes fly over every day, but the helicopters were more few and far between. Now it is a everyday occurrence multiple times a day. And there's other, instances of just things changing. But yeah, it's the activity is more, you're seeing a lot more activity in general in the area. And so that's just all the activity and all the movement. You're gonna, you feel the tension in the area, and so for us to be able to have the coping mechanisms without relying on any substances to relieve the tension has been a godsend. Really, it has been, because I don't know how I would be able to handle this time period if I had to rely on a substance, and then there's a lot of, instances where people can't get stuff they want. I mean, people can't even get, we couldn't even find toilet paper or, paper towels, consistently in the stores, let alone what if I wanted to go to a dispensary and my local dispensary was shut down. So it's just such a different time period. We as Americans, we're used to having full access to everything at all times. And almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week access to that. I know a lot of people who complain about, stuff not being 24/7. So for me, I think this was just a good lesson in self-sufficiency, and then reliance on only the person I live with, the one I love, the one I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. That's, I think, the best thing for us, is that we learned that just us, we can get through everything together.
Yeah. So, I thought it was so sweet, honey, that you sang the Comedy Cupcake song to bring us in.
Oh, yes.
I have a song for you.
What?
To transition us into the next topic of conversation for the Comedy Cupcake.
Amazing. I cannot wait.
Yeah. July is coming up. I wonder how the 4th of July is going to be for America.
It's going to be the most interesting 4th of July ever.
Yeah, so here's my song. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. Except for on Facebook and Instagram. If you say something wrong, they'll cancel me. So I gladly stand up next to you, protesting down the street today, 'cause we've all been locked inside for 2 months. Burn down the USA.
Wow, that was amazing. That should be our new national anthem. When we win a gold medal at the next Olympics in 2021 or 2051, whenever Corona ends, that should be what we hear when we win a gold medal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
I mean, it's very interesting. Do you feel like you can even say online that you're proud to be an American without getting in trouble.
It's gonna be the 4th of July, and celebrating the 4th of July this year will be more of a political statement than since 1776. Like, it is going to be, it's going to be considered, a political stance to say I'm proud to be an American. It's going to be a political stance to say that, you're proud to live in America and, all that it stands for, even if it is imperfect, that is going to be a controversial stance. All right, so because we're in a new time period, I thought that I should write something, just my thoughts of what's going on in general. So, the politically correct movement, the PC police, have become more corrupt in abusing their power than the police themselves. The court of public opinion has less checks and balances in seeking justice for criminal acts than the very imperfect court they rail against. The mob in the last few weeks has gone after people's livelihoods whose spouses, not themselves, have said something deemed offensive. People have lost jobs over liking tweets, sending personal text messages, and not using the appropriate language on social media. Now, I'm sure we may have a viewer in the audience who has never made a mistake before, never liked an offensive social media post, never sent an offensive text, or been related to anyone who has done the same. But I would guess the vast majority of the audience are humans who make human mistakes. Instead of the phrase, "Let those without sin cast the first stone," we are throwing bricks into buildings of those who have been deemed to have sinned. Instead of practicing an eye for an eye makes the world go blind, we have become blind to our own faults, mistakes, and sins, while judging others for any perceived wrongdoings they have committed throughout their own lives. The anti-religious PC police have become what they've hated: religious zealots, preaching to their own amen choir, and anyone who argues is excommunicated from their congregation, otherwise known as "unfriend me if you disagree." The United States has returned to its puritanical roots, depicted in the book The Scarlet Letter. There are those pretending to be anointed in salvation and sanctification as woke. In other words, they are without sin, judging the unfortunate few Hester Prynnes who are branded with the letter R for racist. We have regressed to the point where you are born with the original sin of racism, that you have to atone for the eternal sins of your ancestors. Even if you are a first or second generation immigrant escaping a country to come to America for a better life. The PC police have papal supremacy, more so than the actual Pope today. And unlike Catholicism, there are no confessions. There are no Hail Marys after you say, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." At this point, it's, "Forgive me, Father, for I have lost sinning followers." Self-righteous social media personalities think they are gods with followers that might as well be apostles. These born-again non-racists who feel morally superior due to the facade that they present online to their congregation of believers, these born-agains live high upon Mount Pius, casting judgment to those below, while secretly they are trying to erase the sins of their past when they were not wholly devoted to the cause. Shh! Don't let them know about my actions in the faraway land of 2019. My friend sent me a website devoted to the subject of illogical fallacies called Thou Shalt Not Commit Illogical Fallacies. But the website does not understand that the concept of this website is an illogical fallacy. It is impossible to complete any statement without some form of illogical fallacy. No one will see your honest or logical statement as completely objective, logical, and free of some personal motivation. The use of honesty or falsely claiming superior logic is a power strategy intended to convince someone of one's noble, good-hearted, selfless character or someone's superior intelligence. We live in an era where superiority has been covertly subverted by overt displays of moral and logical superiority. We live in an era where science and logic have become religions, with followers as faithfully blind as any religion they espoused as illogical. Now, in conclusion, I don't see myself as a better person. I see myself as more human because I admit to people my mistakes and flaws. I have blemishes. This is something that is missing from the holier-than-thou culture of today. Ironically, this holier-than-thou culture is from a historically unreligious, atheistic population.
Wow, honey.
Yeah, it was fun. I wrote it. What do you think?
That was great. I thought that was fantastic. I couldn't agree. I mean, I couldn't agree more. The PC police is wilder than ever online.
Yeah,
There is that holier than thou concept that has been. It is.
Well, I feel that, we have no conversations in the middle. The mob has driven everyone towards one side.
We're not allowed to have conversations.
Or the other. Obviously, there's things that, a lot of people, that pretty much everyone agrees with. I think pretty much everyone agrees with, man, we could really use some police reform. Mm-hmm. But it has gotten to the point where police reform is not enough. You have to defund the police. Because if you don't defund the police, you're called a bootlicker, a MAGA supporter, practically Trump himself, Hitler. I mean, it goes on and on. And it really drives people away from the conversation. There's a lot of unintended consequences of what is occurring today.
I guess how I feel about it is there's how people are acting online as far as this holier than thou complex. It's almost like if you're not posting about this, then you don't care, which for me, it's like, I know what I've done the last 3 years in my stand-up comedy career. I know how much I've supported people, and this holier than thou and silence is violence, and if you're not posting, then you don't care. I just feel like it's straight up bullying.
Oh yeah, it not only is a bullying, but like I said, the unintended consequences, there's a basic law of physics for all of this. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a lot of people who were on the side of reform the police who have been shouted down by the bullies to the point where they probably now are at, instead of, it's now, they're going to, instead of defund the police, it's going to be defend the police. I really believe that.
And here's the thing, for people out there who are actually posting online because they care and they genuinely, are spreading a good message, this is not about you. It's about people out there who are acting holier than thou and acting like they are better than people. And if you're not posting the way that they're posting, then you don't care. But it's like, I feel like the movement itself, the idea itself is amazing. It's just the way some people are going about it. It just seems so fake. I feel like some people are so fake, it's almost like they're hiding from how they were acting before. And it's like, I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I don't need to prove that I care. I don't need to. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Well, on top of what you're saying, I feel that there's a lot of people whose actions supported what they have been posting.
Yes.
And those people who have already been acting in the way that they're posting, this is not directed towards you. You've been part of this cause for your whole life, probably. Yes. And you have continued what you've always done. In fact, that's, how we feel. We've supported what we've wanted. We've supported people who have not been heard, who have been overlooked, who are very talented people who the mainstream doesn't really give a chance. And funnily enough, that is a overlapping Venn diagram with a lot of people of color, a lot of minorities in a lot of various ways. But there are people who have never done a single thing for any minority, and then they feel that, oh, well, I posted a black square, I'm good. In fact, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And that's my big issue. Like, for me, I remember when I started Channel 310, and when the mission statement was not to help any particular race, it was to help people who are overlooked in the community, who don't get a shot normally. And that just happens to be a lot of, black people, Hispanic people, disabled people. I can go on and on, but that it just happened to cover a lot of different things that are encapsulated in this movement. But I remember back then when I was made fun of for this cause that I was under. And people assumed, oh, is it because you like black people or this or that? No, I'm trying to support what I feel like. I'm an outsider. And because I'm an outsider, I want other people who feel like outsiders to be let inside our little group where I will support you and try to let your voice be heard. And now I feel like my actions are a lot more important than any post that I could have done during the protest.
Yes.
Because what you've done pre-protest is trying to be erased by people who are trying to rewrite history. There's a lot of people who want you to forget that they never did anything for anybody but themselves or their own group. And now they're trying to act like they've been for everybody. When in reality, we know what you did pre-protest and pre-pandemic. We know what you were doing, which was, making fun of a lot of people like me and Lila who, look at Small Talk Live. Small Talk Live was a live talk show. It's still going to go on post-pandemic, but it had so many different talented people of color. I remember one episode in particular, episode 7. It was a great episode all around, and we didn't have more than, 5 people in the audience who were not part of the cast and crew. It was the least attended episode, and we had amazing comedians, and in particular, our music guest, Young Scrap.
He's amazing.
It was like, wow, this is a diamond in the rough who was performing. And it was our least attended show. He happened to have an album that dropped during the pandemic that nearly hit the top 10 of iTunes, period. Not a specific category, period. And it's still going really strong. And I am really, really genuinely happy to see someone who blew my mind and was just like, wow, I'm blown away by this performance. And man, more people should be here supporting this guy and watching. I knew how good he was. And so for me to see talent rise above all of the obstacles that we have to go through to get heard in this industry, it's really heartwarming. But I still remember that we had 5 people in the audience who were not part of the cast and crew. It felt disappointing at the time. And partly it felt disappointing because everyone involved, I could think of some comedians, like Steve Lee was one of the comedians on there, and he was great. But, everyone involved in that episode should have had more people watching. And yet, there's going to be a lot of people online who act like, oh, I've always supported, and I've always done this for certain people. Well, where were you that night when we just had talent upon talent upon talent on that stage? And, I could point to a myriad of times, but I'm really proud of Lila in particular, who has not only stuck by her communities, of being Asian and disabled, but she has helped other communities tangentially to her. It reminds me of what my grandma Rachel, who is, is of Jewish descent, but she is just so worldly, lived in India, Hong Kong, England, New York, New Jersey, California. She taught me a very important lesson. And the lesson was, Jews and black people, we are canaries in the coal mine of oppression, in that when one of us goes, the other one will soon go, and then suddenly everyone else will get oppressed. And she taught me, as a Jew, you should look at the most disadvantaged communities like black people, Hispanic people, Arab people, disabled people. Look at to when they are being oppressed, because when they're oppressed, you will soon be next. And that was one of the lessons of the Holocaust. The Holocaust, there were groups like disabled people, like gypsies, who were being oppressed. And then who became the ultimate scapegoat? The Jews. And so that was the lesson that we learned, is that you can't just stand up for your own group's, causes. You have to stand up for the entirety of civil rights. Because if you don't, you will be next when it all comes crumbling down. And that's why we stand for not only civil rights, but the rights of free speech and, attacking the PC police.
I just hope that people, it's more important to be a good person in real life than it is online. And I think a lot of people have they have it backwards. They're so obsessed with looking good online. I mean, it's really been disheartening to see so many people online being like, if you don't agree with this, unfriend me now. And it's like, wow, we've really come to this point where we can't even have an open conversation. We can't even have a dialogue. If you just say the wrong thing, it's like, if I was judged for my behavior 3 years ago drinking, and now I'm sober, it's like we don't even give people the chance to grow without being like, you're canceled, you're done. And it's like, if you're so, it makes me like emotional, but like, if you're so PC online, how do you ever expect us to be able to go on stage and just say how we feel and to work? How is a comedian going to be able to go on stage and to work out material? You can't even try different things, because if you try something and it's wrong and it's not what everybody is saying, I just feel like as a comedian, when there's a big group that's just thinking one way, it makes me feel questioning, like there's this mob, and it's not right. We should have the freedom to have a discussion without the fear of being shut down completely.
Yeah, and I think one of the most disturbing parts of this is the ostentatiousness, the fact that you have to post a picture online. You have to, put on your social media, your activism. Do your activism. I am all for activism, peaceful protest, but
be kind to people in person. People want to tell you how to solve the world problems, yet they don't even know how to solve the problems in their own home. Call your mom, call a friend, do something kind for another person in real life before you're out here telling everybody what they need to be doing. Take a look at yourself. That's why I'm saying it's about self-mastery. If everybody in the world really took a deep, hard look at themselves and what they could do to be the change, it would be a lot better in the world. But it's a lot of arguing, and it's a lot of anger, and there is a lot of injustices, and it's horrifying, and it's, we are experiencing collective trauma as a whole. We have been stuck in our houses for the last 2 months. There's videos circulating online of trauma and just really scary things, and it's like people arguing online. It just almost makes you want to turn off your phone completely.
Yeah, and I remember asking my grandma, because she took my mom and her and my uncle to the protests after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and I asked her, like, so are there pictures of you going? And she was like, pictures? Why would I take a picture? It's not a birthday party. It's not like it was a march for one of the great activists of any generation who was assassinated unjustly. And the fact that you would think, oh, I'm just going to take a picture of myself at this moment. And I understand, yes, we are in an era where the technology is, more accessible to everybody. But I still do think that we have really found a way to make everything about ourselves and our ego.
Our egos. That's exactly right.
I also think that it is a little disturbing that I have seen so many different people who are trying to capitalize and build their social media profiles on the very horrific deaths of a lot of different people. And that, I espouse violence on both sides. I think we need justice for George Floyd. I think we need justice for David Dorn. And so I wish we had more conversations in the middle. Literally, the first rule of our country is the right to free speech. And free speech means you are free to say your side, I am free to say my side. Americans used to be the best at arguing. That's how we created great civil discourse. And, the best comedy comes from the fact that we could argue, we can make mistakes. And now I'm worried at the state of art in this country because we are not allowed to have an opinion that is not the one true ordained correct opinion. And we're not going to really progress towards anything positive if we keep shouting each other down. And the unintended consequences is the people in the middle are going to be pushed to one side or the other, and you might not like which side they get pushed towards.
I just, it's when I say, like, I still am proud to be an American, Eric. I still am proud to be an American, whether or not that is going to be taken anyway by anybody who's watching this. I am proud to be an American because my mom, her dream was to come to America. She comes from the Philippines. She comes from extreme poverty, and her dream was to come to America because here in America, you're allowed to build a life. You're allowed to do things, and you're allowed to have these conversations. And I just feel like now it's we're not even allowed to speak.
Yeah, well, you're allowed to speak, but people have given vast consequences just for speaking, and I don't agree with the extreme consequences of speech. Let people speak, and the court of a public opinion, like I mentioned earlier, has just gone a little awry. It's gone too far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to say on this? This is really freaking good.
Oh, thanks. No, I just for the audience out there is, be the person you present yourself to be online. Really be that person that you present yourself to be online. Don't just be good online. Be a good person in real life.
I love that. I think it's a great message to end this on.
Yeah.
Well, I love you, baby.
I love you too.
And whatever opinions you have, I'll still love you.
Yeah. You better like my opinions. No, it's like, and yeah, that's like a relationship. You're not going to always agree with each other, but it's just when you, I don't know.
Yeah, America is a family. We're a messy family, but democracy is messy. That's the beauty of America. We're the democracy is imperfect, but it's the most perfect system we have. Dictatorships, they're the ones who seem clean, but once you go to them, you realize they're the most imperfect system available. What we have, although it's not perfect, and it never will be, we're doing pretty dang good. And as a family, as an American family, I just hope we all love each other and have more empathy for each other.
And don't close off the conversation. Don't.
People are not going to learn by being shouted down. That's the way people get entrenched in their opinions, actually. And so if you want people to change, it's going to come through empathy and understanding and, hopefully we
and
get
set
to that.
The example with your own life.
Oh, yes. Actions do speak louder than words. And I think that's something our generation truly needs to understand because we're online and, words do have a lot of power, but the actions are really what get the most attention.
I love you, honey.
I love you. So let's do a beautiful, loving action for somebody in our American family today. The great big family of America. Love each other. There's a lot of really good people, and a lot of people in America, they feel in pain right now. So
call your mom.
Yeah, give some love, give some empathy. It goes a lot farther than you'll ever believe.
Right.
All right. Love you guys. Comedy Cupcake.